In this video, I'm going to take you on the full journey from 50 grand in debt to multi-millionaire entrepreneur. But I thought I have to master this, otherwise my life's never going to change. I was in the financial situation where even a fiver of a round, I had to put on a credit card, the first of almost 1,000 properties. You can kind of start to own most of it like the game of Monopoly. That was probably the worst day of my life, seeing that happen to my dad. And it's significantly gone up in value, and I've been taking rental income from it for 15 years. Probably one of the greatest moments in my life was to be able to give that house to my mum and dad. Hi, I'm Rob Moore. I'm known as the Disruptive Entrepreneur, and I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. I've written 17 business books. I have a podcast called The Disruptive Entrepreneur. I have the UK's largest property training company and an 8-figure-a-year training business in the UK, and also have almost 1,000 property units that I co-own or manage in my property companies. But honestly, things weren't always like this. I've come from nothing. I've come from less than nothing, 50 grand in personal debt, and managed to turn my life around with hard work and hustle and some smart work. And I'm going to take you on that journey, drive you around some of the locations of my property investments, the buildings we're developing, the offices, and the full story. But before we get in, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Right, so let's hop in my Porsche and I'll take you on the journey. So we're going to the Holiday Inn in Peterborough, which is the place I met my business partner, Mark Homer. It was a property networking event there, just a small one. So it was December 2005. I didn't have a car anymore because I had built up over 50 grand of debt. And I actually had a car with a loan that I was paying the monthly on. And I sold the car, but the car was worth like 60-70% less of its value. So I sold the car, but I only had a few grand and just barely paid off some of the interest on the credit cards. So I bought a bike, and I used to ride everywhere on my bike. So I was fit, but I didn't have a car. I was skinned. And I was still an artist at the time, doing pub work because I can't make it fully as an artist. So I'm doing evenings and weekends in the pub all day, and then all through the night trying to paint, trying to make 2 livings and making not enough money for one. A week before then, my dad had had a massive nervous breakdown. Really busy pub full of 70 or 80 customers, absolutely rammed. So my dad was carving and he just stopped, like making weird noises and then sort of squealing a bit. I'm working the bar, pulling the pints, and I got him out of the pub and I got him to the front of the pub. And he was just gone, his eyes were gone. It was like he had been possessed. And a police van turned up, sort of a mini reinforced police van. 2 policemen got out, one looked no older than 20. The kid pulled out the baton, smashed my dad round the backs of the legs, tied him up, just took him away, dumped him in the back of the police van. He got sectioned, and then he got diagnosed with bipolar disorder. That was hard for us as a family because we were working together all the time. I worked every Christmas, every birthday, yet we weren't making anything of our lives. We weren't making any money. That was probably the worst day of my life, seeing that happen to my dad. But it was also the day that everything changed for me, the motivator. And I'll be honest, motivated by pain and shame. So for probably 4 years, everyone, my dad, the gallery owner, Mike, had been saying, Rob, you should get into property. Rob, you should get into property. What does an artist know about property? Don't you need a load of money to be a property investor? So I thought, I've got to go to this property networking event. I know nothing about it. Felt like if I didn't get out, I'd really let my dad down.
Pause. I've got something really exciting to tell you. If you want access to the latest information of what is working in the property industry right now, how you can start in property, how you can scale in property, what strategies you need to be using and which ones you should be avoiding, then in the description there's a link to a free report that you can download right now and access the information that you need to start your property investment journey. Right, now let's get back to the video.
So quite honestly, I felt a complete fraud in a property networking event, bearing in mind I was like 50 grand in debt. I almost felt like it was on my t-shirt. I'm in debt, I'm a loser. I felt scared to talk to anyone. I felt like a fake. And the last person I sat next to on the bar, he was sort of just looking straight ahead. He looked a bit cold and grumpy, and I was like, do you want a drink, mate? And he was like, yeah, Diet Coke. Looked really serious. I don't think he spoke like that. Bought him a drink, and even back then, buying a round was painful for me. I was in the financial situation where even a $5 of a round, I had to put on a credit card, not a debit card, because I was in my overdraft. Hand came out, I'm Mark Homer, I'm Rob Moore, nice to meet you. A few weeks later, a couple of exchanges, we decided, right, this property game, we're gonna go all in. We're gonna go big, and we're gonna make something of our lives. We're gonna make money in property. Now we're going to the old site of my mum and dad's pub. It's no longer there now. They knocked it down and built houses on the site. About a week after I met Mark at the Holiday Inn, I went to see him in his offices because he was working for a property sourcer, and he invited me into his offices, and he'd given me a few books to read, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'd never read a book from cover to cover. I was not a reader. And immediately Mark was like, how'd you get on with the books? And I was like, yeah, they were good. And he started quizzing me. What happens here? What's the difference between an asset and a liability? What's the power of a mastermind? He started asking me all these questions, and I knew the answers because I'd read the book. And I only found this out like 5 years later or something. But Mark would do that as a test. He'd give book recommendations as a test, because he said to me, he said, most people you give them book recommendations, they never read them. But you read them, and that piqued his interest in me. My desperation had turned into, right, hard work, ethic, relentlessness, persistence. So he put a good word in to his boss, and he said, we should hire Rob. So they paid me minimum wage, which I think was £6 an hour back then, but £500 commission for each property I sold. Now, bearing in mind, I'd hardly sold any art and I was an artist. The thought of selling to strangers property investments, that was scary, but I thought I have to master this. All these things that are uncomfortable, I have to face them, I have to do them, otherwise my life's never gonna change. And within that year, I got rid of all my debt, 50 grand, and I earned pretty much six figures, even bought a Nissan 350Z. And it was just nice to be able to buy the car for cash and feel like that was a reward for turning my life around. Last couple of months of working in this property company, Mark and I worked out overseas off-plan new build. It's not the way to go. You can't add value. They're often overpriced. So we worked out that the older, dilapidated, in need of refurbishment properties were the way to go. And we'd buy stuff at 50, 60 grand and it'd be worth 85, 90. We found like we had this system that worked. So we went to our boss and we said, look, this refurb system, buy older, buy properties that need doing up. This works. And he dismissed us. He just completely dismissed us. No, I don't want to do any of that. That's not scalable. That's too difficult. I couldn't sit there and work for him selling properties when I knew there was a better way. I said to Mark, we have to leave and we have to set up on our own. I planned our new company, Progressive Property, and I got the laptop out and I even planned how many staff we needed, and maybe we'd borrow one or two of the staff from the company we were in. And my boss found it because I did it on the work laptop like an idiot. And that was an absolute blessing, because he got really angry. I was actually doing a reality TV show on Living TV in the UK at the time. But he phoned and left a message to me to say I'm fired, and he pulled Mark in his office and he said, you're sacked. And we set up Progressive Property in January 2007. And that was a great blessing. So we are on the development site which replaced the knockdown of my mum and dad's pub, the Royal Arms. I've got mixed memories. There's obviously nostalgia, like there's the old outhouse where I hung my punch bag and I used to kick that for an hour a day. Out the front where that grass is where my dad was wrestled to the floor by the police. The physical building has been knocked down. So yeah, mixed feelings. So this house here is where my company Progressive Property was born. And in that little dining room, we made that our office. We had two tiny desks back to back like this. And we turned around and we'd have to fold out the table to have a board table and our board meetings. So our now 8-figure-a-year property training company and business and personal development training company was formed in that little room there. And when I turned my life around and made it, probably one of the greatest moments in my life that I'm the most proud of was to be able to give that house to my mum and dad. So we are outside the first buy-to-let I ever bought. My first of hundreds and hundreds of properties and rental units and tenants that we've owned and managed over the last 15 years. So back in 2006, I bought this flat without any of my own money. Only a few months before that, I didn't even know that you could buy property with other people's money or in joint ventures. This now 15 years on, and it's significantly gone up in value, and I've been taking rental income from it for 15 years. So we're outside our largest current development. This is a shopping complex that we're converting into 100 apartments. So we went from buying very small, slightly ugly single properties to massive developments like this. It doesn't really feel real. It definitely is a pinch yourself surreal moment to stand outside this. I've walked down this street 1,000 times, seeing all these big properties, never actually thinking I would own and develop them. So one of the reasons I love to stay in my city is you can kind of start to own most of it like the game of Monopoly. But just there, we own a building that's 15 to 20,000 square foot, a 32 unit building. Just around the corner, we've got a 20 unit conversion, tens of thousands of square foot. I can walk down there 30 meters that way, 30 meters that way, and see 180 units that we own in the center of Peterborough. So we own this building too, which is on the other side of the street of our 100 unit development. This will be about 42 apartments. Now this building and the one on the other side are known as the gateways to Peterborough, because when people walk from the train station and the football stadium, they see these two buildings first. And so we've worked with the council to make this look really beautiful as an entranceway into the city. And it feels really great to contribute to your entire city. Over the years, I moved my focus away from property. I like the baby, but not the labour pains of property. It brings the recurring income, the passive income once you've set up the management. For me, it's more now of a hands-off investment. It's where I park a lot of my profits. But I moved more into general entrepreneurship because I love the risk. I love the creativity of starting a business and building something from nothing. And so I've got more into podcasting, and I've done pushing 700 episodes of The Disruptive Entrepreneur, 15 billionaires and some of the most amazing people on the planet that I've met and interviewed, and many of those have become friends to this day. I love writing. I love expressing what I learn. It's like I have a very active mind. So writing is a cathartic release for me of everything that I'm learning, always on the go, never switching off. It feels great to make your millions, but it feels better to share what you know with other people and see your students and your mentees make millions. So I've had quite a few cars. I had the old Porsche Panamera Turbo S, but the newer Panamera Turbo S, I believe it's the fastest family saloon car that's not a Tesla. But come on, inside, outside, the look, the luxury, no competition. So the first nice car I bought was a Nissan 350Z. I bought my first Ferrari in my 20s, the 430 Spider. I bought an Ariel Atom, had the Ferrari 458. I have a Lamborghini Aventador. I have a Ferrari Testarossa. Always like to let the wife have the new Range Rover when that comes out, because that's her car of choice. Makes me remember my childhood. I used to collect all the car pictures and put them on the walls in my bedroom. The Lamborghini Countach, the Corvette, the Ferrari Testarossa. Buy a picture of a car every single week, and I'd even hammer and put the pictures up myself, and I'd look at them and I'd go, one day I'm gonna have a Ferrari Testarossa. And then when you work hard and you turn your life around and you become an entrepreneur and you can have in your garage the cars you dreamed to have as a kid, yeah, that's special, that is. And it's really important to reward yourself as an entrepreneur, because a lot of people, they just keep working and keep working and keep working and never see the fruits of their hard work. When starting out, entrepreneurs often chase too many rabbits, trying to do 5 different business models. And I believe it's smart at the start to focus on your main thing. But for at least 5 years, I stayed in my lane of property. I bought properties for myself. I did property training. I sourced property deals for other people. I set up a letting agency, managing properties. So you can build more than one business or multiple streams of income, but staying in that one lane, that niche of property, that was important, and too many people spread themselves too thin. But actually, the biggest mistake most people make is they just never properly start. They're a wantrepreneur, not an entrepreneur. I think really true entrepreneurship is finding meaningful problems and solving them at scale with no loss of enthusiasm as you hit challenges and hardship. It's dealing with the challenges and the failures along the way, putting things on the line like a salary and like friendships and your social life. You put that on the line because you take a risk in the hope of profit. But we do that because the prize is so big, the victory is so sweet, the reward is so great. I wrote a book called Start Now, Get Perfect Later. And I kind of lived that. At the end of every single one of my videos and podcasts, you hear me say, and remember this, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. A lot of people struggle with that. They want to be perfect. They don't want to make mistakes. They don't want ridicule or embarrassment or judgment. I've got over that. I'll just try stuff. If I look stupid, if I fail, if I make mistakes, I'll just fix it and get better next time. So we're now outside my offices and training facilities. We house nearly 100 staff here. We run hundreds of training event days a year. We also have our media agency and our podcast and video studio. That central studio streams out to the globe. We used to be a property training company. Then we grew into a business and personal development training company. In the new media landscape, we are now a media agency. We have publishing books and audiobooks. We have hundreds of podcast clients who we publish their podcast. We have done hundreds of live stream events to hundreds of thousands of people. I think a true entrepreneur builds multiple businesses. They don't rest when they've made a few million quid. I've got my property portfolio. I'm going to sit on a beach, smoking a cigar, drinking pina colada on my deck chair. No, we build empires, and now I'm a podcaster, one of the most successful podcasters in the UK. Written 17 books and writing 3 or 4 already. Become a global training company, a global media company. You build your personal brand and you become an influencer. That's what being an entrepreneur is about. Constant scale, the desire to take risks, the desire to grow, the desire to make an impact on a global level. So you've just seen the short version of my story, but there's a lot more where that came from. So like this video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell.